late. Be sure and sign that before the end of class. It's going to make its way around. I'm thinking about putting 2 roll sheets in the front for the doors. When you come in, would that be easier for everybody to sign as you came in rather than passing it around class? You think that would work better? I told you all that I would record this and post it on YouTube, and that those would be available for you to review if you want to. So if you weren't here, I've already got lecture 1 from last week up. You can find it in 2 places on your Desire to Learn website. One will be in the news item. I will post them there when I've got them up. So you can click on the hyperlink right there from the news item. I post a lot of news items throughout the semester, so if you lose track of the news item, you can also click on the content section of the D2L site. And if you go to the module that we're in, so we have 4 exams, there will be 4 modules. You can click on the module link and you can review those videos from there. So you'll have 2 access points on D2L. You could also search YouTube for Brandon Geary and it will come up, but you might get the ones from last semester as well. So 3 ways to get the video. Any questions about that before we get into creating value in marketing? All right. So last time we were talking about this idea of the history of marketing thought, the idea of value co-creation, right? And I told you that we would have a critical thinking exercise, which, by the way, for the first week's critical thinking exercise, I have posted the grades for that. So you should check your D2L site. For those of you who are here on the first day, you should have gotten the critical thinking points for that. And every group, I thought, did a good job of coming up with answers to my critical thinking challenge. So I gave everybody the 2 bonus points. So isn't that great? You've already started out the semester with over 100% average. Yay! You can clap. Aren't that nice? So, in thinking about that, what is going to occur this evening that really is a non-traditional marketing, but it is a value co-creation experience that's going to be broadcast tonight on television? The State of the Union address, right? President Obama's in his last 2 years. He's now facing a Congress that is overwhelmingly Republican, right? What are the chances he's going to get anything done? Not a lot. So what is this address? Well, it really is an attempt to start people thinking, and it's his marketing, his program for his last 2 years, which a lot of people view as a lame duck period in the presidency, and a way of getting the American people to start talking, right? He's facing overwhelming opposition in both houses of Congress, and so this is his attempt to try and market himself and his ideas in these last 2 years of his presidency. So I think you all should watch the State of the Union. There may be a critical thinking challenge that relates to the State of the Union. For those of you that weren't here last time, we watched a video on child-driven education by Saget Mitra, right? And I said there would be a critical thinking challenge. So I want you to get in your groups. Again, write your group name at the top of the paper. And I want you to tell me what marketers can learn from this video in terms of this idea of value co-creation in this new era of marketing, where we move beyond the product-driven and then the sales-driven and then just beyond the marketing era to this idea of relationship building. What can marketers learn from that video? So I'll give you about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll come back at 11:20. If you want, your groups can go out again, break out. There are some spaces in the hall. I'm going to see if the conference room right behind us is available, and if it is, some of you can go in there and come back at 11:20, and we'll look at your answers and see what you've got, okay? So be sure to put everybody's name down on the paper again, write your group name so that I know which group to give credit to, and we'll come back at about 11:20. All right. So, it looks like everybody's come back. Does everybody have their group leader? Make sure your group name and your group members are on the paper. Make sure I can read them. If I can't read your name, it's hard for me to give you credit. right? So everybody got their group leader. All right, let's have your group leaders stand up for today, and I'll give you a number. Make sure that everybody has a number. All right, this is a group leader for you guys. Now, okay, everybody else is sitting down, right? Okay, we'll start at the back this time. So you're number 1, down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So we've got 17 that I have to remember, right? I better write this down. 17. All right, so let's start with group 1. What did you all come up with? So what can we learn from the video?
We kind of figured out that because the internet is a little more personalized, like TV and radio, it kind of takes some of the strategy out of marketing because people are going to search and find what they want to find instead of having to just watch TV or the internet or the TV or the radio, and it's just, okay, at JP Morgan, so I don't care about that, next. So it kind of takes some of the strategy out of it.
Okay, so they can find a lot more information if they want to. And it's amazing how they can, even people who have not heretofore had a lot of experience can figure this out fairly easily. The internet has become much more user-friendly than it was 20 years ago, right, in terms of access. Okay, I think that's a good answer. What did number 2 come up with?
You said it shows marketing to the independent learning of children. It shows different ways to market teaching by using technology. It uses encouragement rather than the usual way of teaching. It's a need for education, resulting in the children taking advantage of the resources given to them. And it's marketing different types of research by bringing something new to the table.
Okay, absolutely, yeah. And one of the things that we'll talk about in a couple of days, you focused on the idea that it involves children and stuff like that. One of the things that we'll talk about is this aspect of ethics in marketing, right? And is that oxymoronic? But we do market to children, right? And basically we were selling technology, even though it was through education, to kids to get them to learn stuff, right? And that's enormously important. I think that that was a highly ethical study and a highly ethical application. But what about marketing things like Cheerios or sugary sweets, things like that to kids? So the ethical implications are enormous for that. So I think that's important that you all recognize that. Number 3.
Alright, so at first we kind of thought it was more along the lines of the production area, like you just build it and they will come. But then we started actually thinking about it, and we thought there was kind of more to it than that. So it was more closer to like the relationship era. Because we thought that it showed that there wasn't just one way of learning, like the traditional way of just having a professor or someone teach the kids. This kind of showed that the kids could teach themselves and do it a different way. And they had like the option of like when they wanted to go and learn and like how they wanted to find information. So we saw this like kind of a different way of learning than the traditional ways.
Okay, so you guys focused on a number of things that are really important in this idea of value co-creation. One is that you have to get people when they want it, right? And they can find the information themselves, and that's an enormously different way of marketing than what we've had in the past, which has been what? Companies market to you, it's on when they tell you it's on, it's on television at various spots and stuff like that. What do you have to do now? You have to reach people at all places at all times, right? And so I think that's an important aspect. And the fact that they can get it themselves, that they can find out the information on their own. So I think that's enormously important. Okay, number 4.
When you give new technology and interest them, they'll come back and start wanting to learn more and more. You encourage them, it's not so much about discipline and learning. And if you interest a little kid, they're going to go and talk to this little kid, bring him over, and they'll teach him something on the computer that maybe the teacher couldn't. So it's a way to build relationships with the students and the educator teaching with.
Okay. You guys, again, focused on something that's really important in this idea of people connecting to each other and teaching each other about products and things like this. In this instance, It's the computer. One of the things that we'll talk about in here as we go on, when we talk about integrated marketing communication, and this all sort of integrates together, is this idea of how powerful people can be when they do or don't like your product. It used to be that we would say that if people didn't like your product, they would tell 10 people. If they really liked your product, they maybe tell 3. Now they have the ability to tell who? Hundreds. Yeah, they have the ability to tell the whole world. So that relationship among consumers is important. All right, number 5.
The way that Google and Skype was marketed through the program, it also helped us experience firsthand how the children were learning and experiencing how the grannies, they felt appreciated and congratulated and encouraged. Also, like the new castle, how they weren't very sure about funding for the program. Once they were there firsthand, they could see that the program was actually working, and using everything else is just a new way of learning for the children.
Okay, so finding new ways of reaching people,
right?
New ways of learning, things like that. Okay, in a technologically advanced world, right, we have to find new ways to reach our customer and get them to learn about our products, particularly stuff that's not necessarily intuitive. How many of you 10 years ago would have thought that you could control a camera from across the room with your cell phone? Right. Okay, number 6.
For our group, we were talking about repetitiveness. Like the more you look at something and play around with it, the more you'll understand and figure things out. Like for the kids, like when they were on the computer and the more they didn't give up, they kept on persisting, they were able to figure out all kinds of new things. And another point that we made was that language is not a barrier. Although they went to different countries and they spoke different languages, the kids were able, good graphics of pictures on the computer, they were still able to figure out and meet the goals that they were supposed to meet, and that the message still came across effectively.
Okay, all right. So technology is lowering barriers to language and things like that. That has applications and implications for things like global marketing, right? How many of you have got apps that will translate on your phone? Anybody done that? A few of you? Okay, very good. Number 7.
What we basically came up with is if there appears to be no market, there is an unsatisfied market. There is always a method to create a market or to create a strategy for market satisfaction. By word of mouth and chain reaction, customers can build a market. And we said to create a market as far as the uneducated kids and identify the need for a product that can satisfy the market. And such as the computers and other materials that educated the kids. Also, he made a desire for the product by building the kids' curiosity and building a relationship between the children and the grandmas. This gave the kids a reason to show off and to take pride in it.
Okay. Yeah, and so developing that market that we didn't think about before, that's huge, right? What's the population of India? It's far larger than the United States, right? What's the population of China? Yeah, 1 billion people, right? And so finding these markets is going to be enormously powerful in the future, right? Where are we going to market our stuff in the future?
Where?
A lot of it's going to shift, right? They're going to become the consumer-driven economies in the world. All right, number 8.
We had a few points. People, especially children, have the ability to learn whatever we give them access to. And human interaction and communication are still the basis for expanding knowledge and learning. And if people are left with an interesting enough problem, they're probably going to try to find a way to solve it.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. This idea of an authentic experience. And one of the things that's really interesting about what you came up with, and this idea of if they want to solve it, if they're interested, they will find a way, is that we see, particularly among your cohort and your generation, this striving for this authenticity of experience. I went to Disney World this last couple of weeks, and over break, it's the 3rd time we've been in the last 3 years. We've been going every year. with my family. It's a convenient place to meet my brother and his kids because they've got in-laws that live there. And this is the most fake of places, isn't it? It's the happiest place on earth. How many of you have been to Disneyland or Disney World? It's absolutely contrived, and yet, what does it feel like? It feels absolutely authentic, doesn't it? The experiences that they create in terms of the virtual realities and stuff like that that they've managed to manufacture. And it's really an interesting phenomenon. Okay, number 9.
We discussed as a group how in marketing his program, he didn't use like a big sales pitch. He used more of just the findings of his experiments and just statistical backing. He just kind of told how it was working and how much it helped him. Then we also talked a little bit about how computers themselves, since they were mutually beneficial for the children and for the program, that he didn't really have to market it to the kids. He just left it there, and since they were interested, they found it out. So.
Okay, so you guys focused on something else like that they came up with, which is sort of, it was a little bit of a production era philosophy. We can see that in that if you put it there, they'll come. Now, why would they do that in India, whereas they might not do that in the United States? If you just put a computer kiosk out in the middle of the streets of Edmond, how many kids do you think are going to start gathering around it? None? Why? They probably have it at home, right?
You probably have as much power on your cell phone as you do on that.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have it at home. Okay. Number 10?
So we discussed about, first of all, the way the guys, the professors sell the product to the kids. Well, at first he started by doing some research. I think it started in 1996. He found the desire to figure out that the desire to figure out the need of the customers. Here, the customers was the key. So he was like, he was trying to find something innovative to teach or to teach something to the new generation. So the computer was here, the product he had to sell to them. It was also, we will also talk about the trio and here of the marketing strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Another point was also that it tried to attract the kid to something they never seen. As you already said, they never really been in touch with it, so they were really attracted to it because we all know that kids are really curious. So it was also an easy way for him to use an experiment in order to come up with something new for the India and the young generation in this country.
Right. So it was new to them, right?
Yeah.
What do you think we would have to do, going back to my question about Edmond, what do you think we would have to do to attract kids in Edmond?
Money.
Something like that. just put bricks of money out there?
Yeah, I think you can put forward.
There's got to be a new technology that we could put out there that they would love. I don't know. I thought Google might have had it with the Google Glass, but actually it's not been wildly successful. I was really amazed. In fact, some people think it's kind of creepy in terms of talking to somebody with Google glasses on because they think that they may be recorded. So I think that's an interesting aspect. By the way, nice marketing. I like the ascot. It stands out.
I also didn't know that Google Glass was being banned in other places and
Yeah.
and bars. So
Yeah.
when you have a country against the product, it's not really gonna.
Casinos also don't really like it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people, to necessarily end up on social media that don't want to be there. 11?
A few things that we came up with were, in the book it talks about 4 core needs in marketing, where it's 2 or more parties that are unsatisfied with something, and then an ability, a need, and be able to satisfy that need. And so that's how it is with the kids or in the classroom, where they had a goal or something they needed to do, they had to learn something, and And so using those computers, they were able to do that, and they kind of had to learn on their own. And then another point was companies could use this as a marketing method and showing that they can be more charitable by developing more positive reputation by sponsoring these type of projects. Maybe that other people might be willing to do more business with them because they see how they want to interact and expand their business or who they deal with. The last point was we came up with something called passive marketing. No one was telling them to do anything in particular. You weren't trying to directly tell the audience or anyone what you're trying to do. You let the product speak for itself. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, so one of the things that you talked about is maybe some corporate social responsibility that companies can do in terms of finding ways to reach people that is beneficial to them. So could you see someone like a computer company like Dell giving computers to benefit this?
I think so.
And wouldn't that in turn around and maybe benefit the company? Because initially you'd have this huge expenditure, you're giving away product, but does it create a demand that's going to be absolutely explosive in the next few years?
Other companies might come in and want to do business with them and help them.
And do we as a society want to do business with companies that are ethical? I think we do in many respects. People overwhelmingly say that they want to do business with companies that don't engage in what they perceive as being unethical practices.
I think you look at that, you know, if you introduce something like that, if Dell says, okay, we're going to go give these computers away to these people, and the next time these people can actually want to order them, they know who they're going to order them from. Like, oh, Dell gave us these computers. We
Sure.
name Dell.
And they have an experience with it, with the product.
And so, based off of, we might choose Dell, we might choose Apple.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the process, you can even develop or create like loyal customers in the process.
Yeah, that's a big thing in creating brand loyalty. And we'll talk more about that in something what we call customer lifetime value in this class. All right, number 12.
One thing our group came up with, that if you create interest, learning what happened, people would teach themselves how to use your product, given the location or placement of computers, since there weren't any others around that adds values. Showing the best teachers what kids were capable of with just one computer. Maybe showing these are the best environments to teach in. I think the statement, if teachers can be replaced by computers, they should be, is essential because if you don't provide something different as far as interpersonal interactions, you aren't needed. Then there is no value creation. Also, the best marketers make products that make the customers create values on their own.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things that you focused on that's really important is that people will learn what they want to learn, right? They will learn it. One of the things that I've said for a long time in this class and in other classes is that it's not that professors are unimportant, but rather it is our job to direct you to the things that you should know and learn in order to be successful in life. And so you then have to absorb that for yourself and make it your own. But you really did create a situation in which these kids really wanted to learn this stuff. And I think companies can learn a lot from that, which is if you want people to learn about your products, you have to give them a reason to be interested in it, right? You have to give them something that's going to create value for them. And finding that combination of what creates value and will then get them to drive their interest and learn about your product is enormously beneficial. So very good. All right, 13.
We just said that communication is vital, like marketers working together with the consumer and getting the consumer giving input back to the marketer is very vital for them to like learn what they need to change and what they need to keep. And then we just said that marketers can benefit from long-term customers too, just from getting advice from them since they've stayed around so long. That's all we got.
Okay, so you guys have really touched on something that's the heart of value co-creation. The idea that you really do have to pay attention to the customer. It's not Steve Jobs. In fact, there was an article that came out on one of the websites that I look at frequently. I think it was on the NPR website about the 5 things that have happened at Apple since Steve Jobs died that he said would never happen at Apple. What are they? Anybody know? One of the things that he said would never happen is you'd never have an iPad mini. He said that you couldn't have a tablet with a screen smaller than a certain dimension and be able to enjoy the apps and see things clearly. What has Apple done? The minute he died, they came out with the iPad mini. Why?
People want it.
People want it, right? They want something that's smaller, that's easier to carry around. When you're sitting on an airplane, again, going back to my Florida trip, how much space do you have? I always fly Southwest. I like Southwest, and I'll tell you why in another lecture why I really like Southwest. And they do engage in value co-creation. But I love Southwest, but it's a cattle call, isn't it? I mean, everybody's got basically the same amount of space, unless, of course, you sit in an exit row, right, or over the wings, and then you get a little bit more space, or the bulkhead. But it's a tiny space. What is that? Is that valuable? I mean, is it harder to use the larger laptop, tablet? Absolutely, in that space it is. So I think that's important. Okay, number 14.
We put that curiosity can be a powerful marketer. Like I said in the video, the kids gave their full attention to the new object that was placed in their village. And this is important to today's marketing because the curiosity around new objects can be extremely useful. Like you said, if you dropped that thing in Edmond, it probably wouldn't work out as well. But when the first iPhone came out, it was the first time that a fully touchscreen was out. People were curious, some were skeptical, but everybody was talking about that. So curious about new objects, like the first hybrid cars when those came out. That was kind of a hot topic, so people were drawn to the new stuff through their curiosity.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing. Is if we are interested in something, we'll learn more about it, and this curiosity is an enormously important attribute of human behavior to get people's curiosity. So one of the things that may be really curious to a lot of people is Google says that they will have a fully functioning self-driving car in how long? How long do you think it'll take before Google says they'll have their fully functioning self-driving car? 5 years. They've said it'll be 5 years. They've already got prototypes. Isn't that amazing? 5 years in terms of this technology. Would that create a lot of interest, do you think, among kids in Edmond?
Yes.
Maybe. And that would be really radically new, wouldn't it?
Hopefully increase safety.
How many of you had to learn to parallel park in driver's education? How many of you were good at it? A few of you? That eliminates that problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got lucky. I took a test a month before I could have gotten mine.
All right, number 15.
Instead of the business creating the value, the customer creates the value for themselves. So the consumer can learn to have a more interactive relationship with the customer, creating a value co-creation, but then in trust in the product loyalty, and so you therefore keep going back to that product because of the interest, the help they give you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And another, again, reiteration of something that's really important is this idea of customer lifetime value. It's easier to keep a customer if they're interested and they like the product than it is to go out and prospect for new customers. When we talk about personal selling, we'll talk a lot about that. It's expensive to go out and prospect. It takes a lot of time. It's getting easier as a result of technology, right, to find out information about you and find out whether or not you might be interested in products. What are some of the ways that we can find that information very easily about you?
Social media.
Social media, absolutely. Google you, and we can find out a lot. It's amazing what comes up. Google yourself sometime and see what kinds of things come up. You might not want all of the things that come up to come up. All right, 16.
Marketers need to find mutual benefits and interests between the producers and the consumers, and real-life examples help to create a connection. So in the video, he was marketing to us his idea, and people are more likely to feel emotionally connected to that if they actually see the kids and they see the results that it produces. And then the relationships help people feel more connected to their cause.
Okay, absolutely. That's an important point. It's not just necessarily about products. He was marketing an idea, and he was absolutely marketing it to us. What does he want people to do by his TED Talk? What kinds of things does he want you to do? He needs money, for one. And it was going to be an astronomical amount of money, if you recall, at the end. He also needs what?
Volunteers.
He needs volunteers. People that are willing to partake and be part of a granny cloud, or maybe not necessarily a granny cloud, but some kind of soul, right? That's what he called his group that you could go and access and things like that. So that's important. And that shows the non-traditional use of marketing, right? In order to promote these kinds of social agendas, yes.
It worked. My mom is in the process of becoming a granny.
Oh, is she really? So did you show her the video?
I did. I showed it to her, and she contacted them, and they're doing the interview process.
Okay, so she could be part of the grading cloud. All right, very cool. And finally, we just said 17, right? So we've got one left.
Right, so we basically said that we use relationships to make an effective working environment by using like value connections and support. So you build off of each other's ideas and you take an interest, or whenever you have an interest, you remember more. Motivation helps, and then if you take the time to make improvements, obviously you will have better results.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is absolutely necessary in this era, is to continually improve, right? You can't just put a product out there and expect that it will stay around or be popular for very long in this environment. You're constantly going to have to adapt that product to changing conditions, aren't you? How fast is the cell phone changing? I remember the first cell phone that had a camera, and I thought, why in the hell would anybody want a camera on a cell phone? They don't seem to be at all, congruent. Would you buy a phone without a camera today? No. It's amazing how often you want to take pictures and upload them to YouTube or Facebook or something like that, right? So that you can share with the entire world what you're doing. All right, so you guys did some really good stuff. Was there anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Okay. So what we'll talk about next time is we'll start talking about planning and organizational strategies. So please be prepared for that. Read that chapter. We'll talk about that on Thursday. I'm going to give you some time. If you haven't formed a group or you want to change your group, I'm going to give you some time now to do that. Where's the roll sheet? Make sure you sign the roll sheet for today. Who needs to sign it? Anybody? Does it get all the way around? All right. So I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a good afternoon. If you feel cheated because I'm letting you go a little early, you let me know and I'll keep you late on Thursday.
No.